Have you ever met someone who you thought you knew, only to be surprised later by who they really were? Maybe it was a coworker you'd seen every day for years, but one afternoon over coffee, they opened up about their struggles and dreams, and suddenly you realized you'd only been seeing the surface. Or perhaps it was a close friend you'd laughed together, shared meals, even celebrated birthdays, and yet one honest conversation revealed depths you'd never known were there. That's how it is for so many of us in our relationship with God. We think we know Him because we've been around the things of God. We attend church, maybe read a devotional, listen to worship music on our commute. We know His name, we know His stories. But deep down, if we're honest, many of us are acquainted with the idea of God, not the reality of His presence. It's like standing at the edge of the ocean, dipping our toes in the water, and thinking we've experienced the sea when in truth, we haven't even begun to fathom its depth or power. We've admired Him from a distance, but we've never taken that step into deeper waters where faith requires trust, and trust builds intimacy, and the enemy loves that. He loves to keep us content with a shallow connection, satisfied with spiritual crumbs when God has prepared a feast. He whispers lies that say, "This is enough, you don't need more, you're doing fine." But the truth is, our souls were designed for more, for a relationship that is real, vibrant, and transformative. And when that longing in our hearts goes unmet, we start to feel it, don't we? That quiet ache that no amount of success, relationships, or distractions can fill. Because we were made to know God, not just know about Him, and until we do, something inside us will always hunger for more. When you truly know God, something shifts deep within you, and it cannot be hidden. It's like light breaking through the darkness, impossible to ignore. People may not be able to explain it, but they can see it in the way you carry yourself, the way you respond to pain, the way you love people who, by all accounts, don't deserve it. That's because a genuine relationship with God is not just information in your mind, it's transformation in your soul. Think of Moses coming down from Mount Sinai. Scripture says his face shone with the glory of God. Why? Because he had been in the presence of the Almighty. When you've truly encountered Him, you can't help but reflect Him. It changes your priorities. What used to consume you no longer has the same hold. What used to terrify you now feels small in the shadow of His power. I remember talking with a friend who had been through the deepest valley, a sudden loss that left their world shattered. And yet, there they were, standing in the rubble of their life, speaking words of faith that didn't make sense to the human mind. I don't understand what's happening, but I trust Him. That's the evidence of someone who doesn't just believe in God, but knows Him. They've walked close enough with Him to know His heart, to know that even when life feels chaotic, He is still good, still sovereign, still faithful. And here's the beautiful part, that kind of relationship is available to anyone who seeks it. It's not reserved for the most educated theologians or the people with perfect church attendance. It's for the broken, the weary, the searching, the hungry. Jesus Himself said, "My sheep know my voice." To know Him is to recognize His presence, to discern His whisper even in the loudest storms. When you genuinely know God, your faith stops being something you perform and becomes something you live. You stop trying to control every detail because you've experienced the peace of surrender. You forgive because you've been forgiven. You serve not because you're obligated, but because His love compels you. And in the quiet moments, those times when no one is watching, you find yourself drawn to Him, not because you have to, but because you want to. The deeper you go in truly knowing God, the more you begin to grasp the vastness of who He is, His character, His nature, His heart. It's like standing at the edge of a canyon so wide and deep that words fail to describe it. You realize that this God you serve is not small, not limited, not confined to the box your mind once put Him in. He is infinite in power, yet intimate in love. He commands the stars to shine and the oceans to roar, and yet He bends low to hear the quiet prayer whispered in the dead of night by a weary soul. When you know God's power, fear begins to lose its grip. The problems that once felt overwhelming may no longer have the same weight because you know who holds the universe in his hands and who also holds you. David understood this when he wrote, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?" To know God is to walk through the valley of the shadow and still declare, "I will fear no evil, for you are with me." And then there's his love, a love so deep, so relentless, that it shatters every lie the enemy has ever told you about your worth. This is the God who sent his only Son to die for you, not because you had earned it, but because his love for you could not be measured or contained. When you start to really know that love, you stop striving to prove yourself. You stop wondering if you're enough, because you finally realize you are already loved beyond comprehension. Knowing God's sovereignty brings a kind of peace the world can't offer. Life may still be unpredictable, but you no longer need to be. You can rest even when the storm is raging, because you trust the one who speaks, and the wind and the waves obey. It's like Peter stepping out of the boat. The water didn't change, the storm didn't stop. But Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, and as long as he did, he walked in the impossible. And here's the beauty: the more you press into knowing him, the more you discover there's still more to learn, more to experience, more to love. It never ends, and that's what makes this journey with him so breathtaking. Every trial, every victory, every quiet moment draws you deeper into the mystery of his majesty and the wonder of his grace. But if we're honest, most of us know what it feels like to let distance grow between us and God. It's rarely intentional. It starts small, a missed prayer here, a skipped quiet time there, and before long, the noise of life grows so loud that his voice feels faint, almost forgotten. We fill our days with schedules, screens, and endless to-do lists, convincing ourselves we'll get back to him when things settle down. But somehow they never do, and sometimes it's not just busyness, it's pride. Deep down, we think we can handle things on our own. We convince ourselves that we've got the strength, the wisdom, the control until life crumbles beneath our feet, and we're left realizing we've been leaning on our own understanding all along. Pride builds walls that keep us from intimacy with God, walls we often don't even recognize until they've grown high and thick. Then there's sin, those hidden places in our lives where we've let compromise creep in. We tell ourselves it's not a big deal, that God understands, that no one's perfect. But every time we choose sin over obedience, every time we ignore that gentle nudge of the Spirit, the distance grows. And the enemy loves to pile on shame, whispering that we've gone too far, that God doesn't want us back, that our failure has disqualified us from his presence. But do you know what's amazing about our God? Even in our distance, even in our wandering, he never stops pursuing us. He's the shepherd who leaves the 99 to find the one. He's the Father running down the road to meet the prodigal with arms wide open. That's the God we serve, a God whose love is relentless, who longs for intimacy with us even when we've chosen everything but him. And yet, so many of us stay stuck. We tell ourselves we're too busy, too broken, too unworthy. But the truth is, the barrier isn't God, it's us. It's our unwillingness to slow down, to repent, to quiet our hearts long enough to hear his whisper. But the moment we do, the very moment we turn back, he meets us there. Always, because that's his nature. He's not a distant deity waiting for us to climb our way back up to him. He's a loving Father standing in the doorway of our hearts, waiting, watching, longing for us to let him in. And when we do, the distance disappears, and we remember once again what our souls were created for: closeness with the God who made us, knows us, and loves us beyond measure. And that's the invitation God is extending to you, not tomorrow, not someday when life feels less chaotic, but right now. He is calling you to step out of the shallow waters and wade into the depths where your faith will grow, where your trust will stretch, where your heart will finally find the intimacy it's been craving all along. Imagine what your life would look like if you truly answered that call, Imagine waking up every morning with a quiet confidence that no matter what the day holds, the meetings, the diagnoses, the disappointments, the unexpected, the God of heaven and earth walks beside you. Imagine hearing his voice more clearly than the noise of the world, feeling his peace even when chaos swirls around you, and watching doors open that you never could have forced on your own. This isn't just for spiritual giants. It's for you, for the mother barely holding it together, for the student wrestling with doubt, for the man who feels like he's messed up too many times to start again. God isn't asking you to be perfect, he's asking you to be willing. Willing to seek him, to surrender, to make room in your life for him to do what only he can do. Going deeper with God often starts small. It's the quiet moments when you choose his word over your phone. It's the whispered prayers in your car when no one else is around. It's the decision to forgive when bitterness feels justified. It's the courage to step out in faith when logic says stay put. These small steps create space for God to show up in big ways. And here's the thing. The more you lean into him, the more you'll see that he's been leaning into you all along. You'll begin to notice his fingerprints in the ordinary, the conversation that came at just the right moment, the provision that arrived when you had nothing left, the strength that carried you through when you were sure you couldn't go on. But you have to take that first step. You have to make the choice to go deeper, to prioritize him above everything else fighting for your attention. And when you do, you'll find that what you gain far outweighs anything you think you're giving up. Because to truly know God, to walk closely with him, is to discover a peace that doesn't make sense, a joy that circumstances can't steal, and a purpose that outlasts every trial and triumph this world can throw at you. So I ask you today, not as a preacher speaking to a crowd, but as a fellow traveler on this journey, how well do you know God? Not how much do you know about him, not how often you talk about him, but how deeply, how personally, how intimately do you walk with him? Because at the end of our days, when the titles fade, when the applause dies down, when the things we chased in this life are gone, that will be the question that matters most. Did we truly know him? Did we walk with him? Did we let his presence shape who we were, how we loved, how we lived? And here's the beautiful truth. It's not too late to go deeper. Whether you've walked with him for decades or you've kept him at arm's length your entire life, today can be the day you choose more. The day you silence the noise, lay down your pride, confess your sin, and take that step closer to the one who has been pursuing you all along. Don't settle for the shallows. Don't be content to know about the God who longs for you to know him. Step into the depth of his presence and let him show you what it means to live with a heart fully alive in him. Because when you truly know God, really know him, it changes everything. And my prayer for you, for me, for all of us, is that when our race is finished, we will stand before him and hear those words we long for most. Well done, good and faithful servant, not because we were perfect, but because we were his and we chose every day to know him more.